7 tips for new D&D players. Hello and welcome. Today we're going to talk about 7 tips for players that are new to Dungeons & Dragons. Essentially, these tips are going to be basic things that you should either bring with you or remember to do or think about before you go to play your first time, or even if you're new and you've only played 1 or 2 times. So, let's go ahead and start off. Tip 1. Come prepared. Now, we're not saying be a Boy Scout and be prepared for anything, but we have certain things that you should always bring with you when you play Dungeons & Dragons, whether you're new to the game or you're a veteran. So the very first thing that you need to bring are dice. Now, yes, some players may have dice at the table, but I'm going to be honest. Dungeons & Dragons players or gamers all together can be a superstitious lot. They may not be willing to share their dice because, bad luck could rub off on their dice. Or maybe they just have a favorite set of dice that they never let anybody touch, and that's all they bring. The best thing to do is always bring your own set of dice. Also, it's not really fair to expect other people to just have extras to bring for you. I mean, if you're going to play the game, it's the most basic item that you have to play, and you can get a set of dice, role-playing dice, for around $3 or $4 at your local gaming store. And then if you really get into it, you can always get a more expensive fancy set, or get that to start off. If you're really into fancy, cool-looking dice, then get the set. You'll have it for other games if you want to play them. You also need to bring a pencil, a character sheet, as well as something to write on, because you're going to want to write down your experience points, all the cool stuff that you get, all the gold, any items, magic, potions, whatever you get during the game. And also, you might want to take notes about what's actually happening in the campaign so you remember what your purpose is for being there. Like if you have a specific person that you're looking for or a monster you're going after. When you come back the next week, if you, let's say you forget, you'll always have it written down. So those are your main items that you really need to bring in order to be prepared. Tip 2. Don't be afraid to ask questions. You may be wondering when you sit down at the table, where are we? What is our group doing? Why are we here? What is the purpose of the adventure? Don't be afraid to ask questions at the table. Also, if you're new, don't be afraid to ask questions about your character. The Dungeon Master, another player at the table, someone familiar with the class that you're playing or the spells that you're using or anything, you'll be surprised. The players at the table are all very helpful. So don't be afraid to ask questions. There's no such thing as a dumb question, and you don't want to feel lost or not understand what you're doing. I mean, that's the easiest way to lose interest in the game, is to really not understand what you're doing. And it's so simple, just ask questions if you have them. So don't be afraid to ask. We don't bite, we're always happy to help. Tip 3, don't metagame. So what do I mean by don't metagame? Yes, adventures and things like that are available to buy, but players really shouldn't buy the adventures. You shouldn't be reading ahead of what you're doing, know where the treasure is, know the monsters in the back of the book or anything like that, so that you know exactly what you have to have or what you have to do. Let yourself be surprised in the game. Also, even if you have a monster manual, don't be one of these players that sits there and opens up when you see that a specific monster's out and then start looking at what their vulnerabilities and stuff are. Those are things that your character, if your character's never encountered them before, would not know. So you shouldn't be sitting there reading metagaming and, I'm going to be honest, I'm going to use the word, basically cheating at the game. Just sit down, enjoy it, learn as you go, but don't metagame. Honestly, the other players at the table are not going to like a metagamer. The Dungeon Master won't. And if you're doing some of these things and start arguing about things like, there's supposed to be this treasure here, a DM can always move treasure in a module. And if they know that you're doing that, they're going to move the treasure. And then they're going to make it more difficult for you to get and maybe more deadly for the party. So, you're basically, honestly, you're ruining the game experience for yourself and probably everybody else at the table. So don't metagame, just sit down, go with the flow, enjoy the game, and have fun. Tip 4, don't be a munchkin. What's a munchkin, you say? A munchkin is a person that basically min-maxes their character. They'll build a character out so that it's built to kill everything at the table, you're basically the kind of person that just wants to blow the most damage possible. You come up with the most ridiculous builds, like you'll build a fighter, assassin, paladin guy so that you can get advantage on the first round, blow your assassinate, blow your smites, throw a ton of dice, and hopefully nuke a thing. And that's not what the game is really built for. Also, you need to take into account there are other players at the table. So don't be looking up things like power builds. My honest opinion is, if you're first learning the game, learn to build out a specific class on your own. Don't read builds online and stuff like that. You know, these guys that put builds online, I'm not a real fan of it, because it just encourages people to copy builds instead of learning the game. So learn, you know, if you want to be a fighter, learn how to build the most effective fighter. Read through it. I mean, let's face it, it's only a few pages. It's a very, very simple system, and that's part of the enjoyment of the game, is learning to play the game, figuring out your own builds. You know, don't rely on other people, because some of these builds sound awesome and they're actually not as awesome as they could be. So come up with your own stuff. Figure out how you can mix things together. Learn the game, and you're going to enjoy it a lot more than just trying to be a munchkin and min-max and copy somebody else's build. Tip 5. Don't be afraid to roleplay and contribute while you're playing. Now let's face it, D&D is a role-playing game. Now, a lot of people, the first time you show up, you may show up by yourself and you don't know anyone. You know, don't be afraid to go ahead and role play your character, to have some fun. Everyone has something to share when you're playing. So let's say you've got somebody and you notice they're always talking at the table, they don't let anybody else contribute. Go ahead and pipe up. If you have a different idea, or you think maybe their ideas are bad, say, well, we could also try this. Or maybe we shouldn't attack that NPC. Maybe there's something that they could provide us that's helpful. You know, don't be afraid to contribute. I mean, let's face it, a lot of times the people that are most vocal at the table are probably the most likely ones to go ahead and be psycho at the table, and their characters are just killing everything and being overly rambunctious. Go ahead, contribute. Maybe you'll be the person that brings some sanity to a table that may be running just nuts. Also, don't be afraid to roleplay. Take on the personality of your character. Have some fun. I mean, it's a role-playing game. That's what we're there for, is to interact, to role-play, have fun with other players, meet new people. Enjoy the game. Enjoy what the game was meant to do, and that's role-play, and allow people to interact and learn to cooperate and work together in order to solve a problem. So please, please contribute. Help your table solve problems. Don't just sit back and wait for combat and roll dice. I guarantee you'll enjoy the game a great deal more than if the only thing you do is sit there, maybe watch your phone the whole time. Then you hear roll initiative, that you perk up for the couple of minutes it takes for combat, and then you're not doing anything. If you're bored at the game, it's because you're not role-playing and contributing. Give it a try. I guarantee you'll have much more fun playing. Tip number 6. Don't waste your money on D&D Beyond. Now, I know a lot of people love D&D Beyond, but let me tell you why personally I consider it a waste of money. I know Wizards is going to hate to hear this, but it is a waste of money. If you are buying your books, which most people do when they start, you're going to buy your player's handbook, you buy your other stuff, maybe you find a book that, you know, as the new expansion books come out, there are other class things that you really want to add to your character. So you're buying the books. Now you see D&D Beyond, and you're like, oh, I can build my stuff online. You've got a monthly fee, and this is the worst part of it. You have to pay for each book individually again. So if you're paying full retail at $50 a book, and then you've got to put another $29 out for each book, I mean, that's insane. Personally, just say no to Wizards and their D&D Beyond nonsense, because if you're buying the books, you should never have to, in my opinion, buy them a second time. It's a waste of money. The other reason I don't like D&D Beyond is if new players come in and this is the first thing they do is buy D&D Beyond, and they've bought their books, they've doubled down and paid for it again, and they're using that to build their characters, you're not learning how to build a character. And don't forget, you have to have internet access for that stuff to work. So let's say you get someplace where maybe you're in a building where you can't get your Wi-Fi, they don't share Wi-Fi, your cell phone doesn't pick anything up. You now have a useless program that you can't pull your character down on. Pencil and paper is something that won't rely on internet connections, and it also allows you to learn the system. You don't have to sit there and be scrolling through a page. Oh, what spells do I have? If you actually built the character out, you'll know what you have and know what you want to do. And it actually makes play move faster. It makes you a better player by learning to build a character. And honestly, if you're a better player, it's going to make your enjoyment greater. Don't fall into this everything has to be electronic nonsense. D&D Beyond, in my opinion, is an absolute waste of money because D&D 5th edition is an extremely simple system. It's not like systems that have 20, 30 books. It's an extremely simple system to build a character in. I mean, once you have the basics of it down, you can build a character in 10 minutes at first level, no problem. Even if it's a class you haven't used before, add another 5 minutes. But it's an extremely simple system that does not require the aid of an electronic subscription service to build a character. So please don't waste your money. That's all it is. It's another way to suck more money out of you after you've already bought books. Tip number 7, and this is the most important one in my opinion. If it's your first time playing and you don't know all the rules, don't quit because you don't know all the rules already. Like I said, it's a very simple system, and it may take a couple of times to get the basic rules down. But you have a group of players there playing with you. More than likely, they're going to be more than happy to give you any assistance. And once you have the system down, even once you have your first class down, the rest of it just falls into place super simply. So if you take an easy class like a fighter or a rogue or a ranger and you want to move on to a magic user, once you have the basics of building a character, the basics of combat, then you just have to learn the basics of something like spellcasting if you move to that. And it's really simple. So don't quit because the first time you play you don't know the rules. And another thing, don't quit if you sit at a table and maybe you don't enjoy playing with the people there. I mean, it is a crapshoot. You may sit down and the first table you play at, the people are awesome. The DM makes it fun for everybody. Everybody's laughing, having a great time. Even if they're getting slaughtered, they're still having fun and having a great time. Or you sit at a table where you've got a stoic DM and you've got some stereotypical players there that are not the most socially functioning people. Don't quit because of that. If you have to, go to another location. Maybe find friends that you know they've been interested in playing. Say, hey, let's play. Don't quit the game because of a single bad experience. That will mean that you miss out on the possibility of a hobby that you will really enjoy. So don't let your first experience and maybe a group of people who are not going to make that experience awesome for you ruin the game for you. The game is a great deal of fun. Trust me, you'll have a lot of fun and enjoy a lifetime hobby that you can play forever. I mean, I've been playing since I was 13, 14 years old. So 40 years. If I was lucky. If I would have started and quit because the people I played with were jerks, then I would have missed out on a lot of fun playing with my kids, my family, everything else, with friends throughout the years, making friends that I now play with that I did only met because of playing D&D and the hobby. Don't do that to yourself. Either move to another table or move to another location. If you have more than one store and you want to play an Adventures League, find another store and go play. Trust me, you'll find a table where the people are going to fit your personality and you'll have fun playing. So don't quit because you maybe have a negative experience or don't know the rules the first time. Just keep going. You will enjoy it. Anyway, that's it for today. My 7 tips for players that are new to Dungeons & Dragons. Please feel free to comment down below, like and subscribe, and we will see you next time. Have an awesome day.